You know, when it comes to entries, you can know your technicals, you can know everything, but I would like to emphasize that it's also, when it comes to entries are also a timing thing. You must know when it is the right time to enter. You must know when it is the time to wait for that entry to come to you. Guys, I'm back again with another video. So on today's video, I want to tell you that in the market there's something called correlations that exist, which is a relationship among the pairs. It can either be positive or it can either be negative. So when you have a positive correlation, when you have two currencies that are positively correlated, right? What means is that they can either be positive or negative. So if they are positively correlated, then they tend to move in the same direction, not exactly at the same time, but most of the time, or in the structure of the market, they just move into the same direction. So I'm talking about your Euro USD and your GBP USD, right? And then other correlation that we have, it's between NAS 100 and US 30, right? So it's such things that I'm going to break down to you today, right? So I discovered this when I was still putting in the work and practicing, like when I was still in the learning phase, right? I'm still learning, by the way, from these videos, but like what is important here is that I discovered that something called correlation does exist, and correlations change over time and many more. So I will be going now into what is in my watch list, because I feel like maybe if I could share why I have this pairs or why I'm looking at the pairs that I'm looking at, then it would also help somebody who's watching this video, right? So let's get into the video, right? So usually, you know that when we analyze the dollar index, right? Because it gives us an indication as to whether the dollar is going to be strong or it's going to be weak. So one of the pairs that so this means, right, if the DXY is strong, just to make a quick note, I'll just put it here, right? So what this means is a strong DXY. This means that, okay, let me first type it. Right. So starting off with the DXY. So when I'm speaking about or talking about correlations, so when the dollar index is strong, this means that all the currencies that have the US dollar as the code will sell. Because when the currency in any pair, when the currency on the right, which is the code, is stronger than the base, that market tends to usually sell. That's just how the market it is. So when we're speaking about the DXY, when the DXY is strong, that means a strong dollar, right? So when you have currencies that have the US dollar as the code, then the market tends to sell. So when the dollar is strong, this also means that when you have the US dollar as the base or as the currency on the left, that currency pair is going to buy. So that is something like that when I'm talking about strong, when I'm talking about correlations, right? So notice, for example, I'm just gonna save this, okay, so we can actually have it here. So when the DXY is strong, then that means all the pairs that have the US dollar on the left will buy. When the DXY is weak, then all the currencies that have the euro, the US dollar as the code will buy, right? So this is what it means. So if the DXY is strong, remember we said a strong DXY means that the currencies that have the US dollar as the base currency, like your USD Swiss francs, will also buy. So if we can look at this movement since the 12th of August until now on the 31st of August. So let's look at what happened on USD Swiss on the same day. So look at from the 11th of August, USD Swiss francs was a buy till today. So what this means is, if the DXY would be weak such that it will go down, then USD Swiss francs will also go down, because what this means now, it means that the US dollar is weak in value and the currencies that is quote are the ones that are strong, and as a result they are the ones that are pushing the price to the downside, right? So when we're talking about currencies now that have the US dollar as the code, this means that if the dollar index is strong, which is also means a strong dollar, then that means your pairs like this, Euro and USD, GBP USD, OD USD, NZD USD will sell because they're going to lose value. But if you turn the tables around, when we have a weak dollar, if the DXY would sell, for example now, then this means that the dollar is going to be weak. As a result, Euro USD is going to be a buy. So for example, if USD Swiss francs ends up being a buy, you will also notice that the DXY is going to go down, right? So that is a negative correlation amongst the DXY and all other pairs that involve the DXY. But let's go now into the currencies in their own selves, right? So I noticed that there is a negative correlation between Euro USD and USD Swiss francs, because when Euro USD is a buy, USD Swiss francs is going to be a sell, right? So let's take for instance this example that we have here. I'm telling you that should the US dollar Swiss francs continue with the buys, it simply means that Euro USD is also going to come back down, because they are negatively correlated. When the dollar is strong, the currency that is a base, it gains, it appreciates in value. That means you will buy. When the dollar index, when the dollar is weak, then that means the currencies that we have here are going to be a buy, right? And then the other opposite way around. But I'm focusing now solemnly on the currencies. So one of the correlations that I noticed was between USD Swiss and Euro USD. So when Euro USD buys, USD Swiss francs sells. When Euro USD is a sell, USD Swiss francs tends to be a buy, right? So those are that is a pure example of a negative correlation. But let's move ahead now to GBP USD, right? GBP USD and Euro USD are one of the most correlated pairs, because when Euro USD is selling, GBP USD also tends to sell, right? But there is something that I call leading and lagging. So if these pairs, we were treating them as indicators, I would like to say that GBP USD is the leading indicator, Euro USD is the lagging indicator, right? But we're dealing with currencies now. So between Euro USD and GBP USD, I would say GBP USD is leading. Let me explain why. I say GBP USD is a leader, and then Euro USD is a follower. The reason why I'm saying that is because you would notice that most of the times GBP USD, if it's a sell in overall, GBP USD is going to sell first, and then Euro USD is going to follow the movement afterwards. Because like I said, that in as much as they are correlated, but they're not going to move as sells in the same exact time. That is the same thing that you would also notice sometimes in between NAS 100 and US 30, right? Which is, I will also get into them now. But Euro USD is most correlated with the GBP USD. But in as much as these pairs are correlated, I would like to say that if you use these correlations like I do, so that is, I will go deeper into what's happening in my watch list, right? So my pairs are sorted in that type of way. I have pairs that are correlated, and some I may not be trading them, but I'm using as some sort of a reference. Because for example, if I'm trading Euro USD, I don't necessarily have to trade the GBP USD, Because if Euro USD is a follower, it follows up on one GBP on what GBP USD does, then I don't necessarily have to trade GBP USD. I can use GBP USD as some sort of a reference to help me trade Euro USD, right? But what I would like to urge or to enlighten you is that in as much as these pairs are correlated, but you must not forget sometimes to treat the pair on its own self without having to look at the other one, because you would find that maybe Euro USD is going to have, GBP USD as the lead is going to have a slight buy, but you would find that Euro USD at a certain time may not yet be ready to buy, but is going to follow up on the movement later on. So that is an example of a positive correlation amongst these pairs. And then if we would look, for example, at the daily structure, right? If I can just erase everything. So it's such things, guys, that you can use so that you can make informed trading decisions. Look at the structure of Euro USD. Euro USD has been trending to the downside since the 8th of March this year up until now, right? So let's go to GBP USD. You would realize that they have similar structures. They don't necessarily have to be the same, but you would see what I'm talking about here. These structures are almost similar, because notice that on the daily time frame, GBP USD is still at support. Support. I would put it that way. Euro USD is also having a downtrending market, but it's not yet ready to buy. So if GBP USD ends up being a sell, continuation of sells, then you also look for the same thing on Euro USD. But sometimes, like I'm saying, that you need to treat the pair on its own self without having to look at the other one, because you would find that the other one is buying currently, but it does not necessarily mean that GBP USD also has to buy at that time. So that is one of the reasons why I have these pairs. It's because of the relationship that I saw or noticed when I was learning and developing in the market. It's such things that I found that I keep using today. So one of the pairs that are correlated, there is a correlation between USD Swiss and CAD Swiss, friends, right? So if I can erase everything here, I don't mind. Look at the structure of GBP USD. If we can just quickly start the market from somewhere around about here and here, then go down to the 4-hour time frame and just have that high over there and have this low over here, you would notice that we had a bullish continuation flag. Then the market broke out of structure and then gave us a support here and went to the upside. So what happens is, what I noticed in the market is that the pairs that have the Swiss francs in them tend to have beautiful structures. That's from my own experience, like your Swiss JPY, your Swiss ZAR, your CAD Swiss, your Euro Swiss, and many more. Right, so pairs that I usually have the Swiss francs within them, they tend to move very nice. I like them, right? So notice what's going on here without me having to go into the 4-hour time frame, right? So let's go now to CAD Swiss to notice if aren't we going to find the similar thing, right? If you looked carefully on the structure of USD Swiss, you would notice that we also have on CAD Swiss something like this, almost the same thing that we saw on CAD Swiss. It's not gonna be picture perfect, of course, but you would notice if you did pay attention that this is a similar thing, right? We also have a support level, but the difference that now is here, and we have this corrective movement that I'm currently seeing over here, which is, I could also highlight it here. Look at it, look at this. So it's such things that I'm talking about, because if you look carefully what's going on here, Euro Swiss had this, USD Swiss francs had this bullish continuation flag, broke out of structure, continued to the upside, and then it's starting to move correctively now. Let's go back now to CAD Swiss on the 4-hour time frame. Impulse move, correction, went to the upside, and then you started to move correctively. So I don't usually trade CAD Swiss, but if ever I'm seeing something on USD Swiss francs and it's unclear, then I tend to go to CAD Swiss just to have an idea as to what is going on, because it's going to help me to understand something that is not clear on USD Swiss francs, right? So that is one of the reasons. That is also how I have organized my watch list and the pairs that I'm trading. But despite that, these are the pairs that I've been most consistent with, that I loved how they move and they were compatible with how I look at the market, because what you're trading, guys, must be compatible with your strategy or whatever that you're looking at when you're looking for entries or breaking down the market. So moving forward now, another correlation that I find very consistent is between Euro CAD and USD CAD, right? Remember that the euro and the US dollar are one of the major currencies. So it's understandable, if we can think about logically, that when Euro CAD is a buy, also USD CAD is a buy. Because when Euro CAD is a buy, it simply means that the Canadian dollar is weak in value as compared to the euros. So what makes you think that it's going to outperform the US dollar as the top currency? Doesn't make sense, right? So again, if you look at what's happening here, CAD Swiss currently is trending to the upside, gave us a nice double bottom over here at these areas, and then it's continuing now, giving us higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher lows, probably going to give us another higher high over there, right? So let's go now quickly to USD CAD. If I can, let me first break down USD CAD. Remember, guys, the structures, they don't necessarily to be the same, but it's you understanding that there is a correlation, but the correlation does not have to be perfect in terms of structures or structures being the same, but you understanding that when the other one does this, the other one tends to do this. So it's such things that I'm leveraging in the market. It's things that I noticed, I discovered them even before I could learn about them, and I keep still using these things today, right? So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about correlations. So if you look at what's going on here, the market came back to the support, and then this was sort of a counter trend, because gave us this bearish flag, and then it changed the direction when we got that in double bottom over there and started going to the upside. If you look at USD CAD, it's not necessarily the same, but if you look at the momentum, USD CAD was a buy since the 10th of August up until now, the 31st of August. If you look at Euro CAD most on the same date, you would notice that from the 24th of August up until now, Euro CAD was a buy, right? So it's such things that I'm talking about. So there is a positive correlation between Euro CAD and USD CAD, right? So going forward now to the second last one. To be honest, I've never really noticed that there was a correlation in the past between a Euro OD and Euro NZD. But as I've been studying or noticing the market, as I keep analyzing and breaking down the market, I would say that it's fair to say that currently there is a positive correlation between Euro AUD and Euro NZD. So if you look carefully on the structure that we have on Euro AUD, we have a reversal pattern. I don't know what this pattern is called, because it's not a bullish continuation flag, but it's a reversal pattern, and I've seen it playing out, and it's one of my favorite type of patterns that I look at, because I know very well how do they behave under what circumstances. So if you look carefully on Euro AUD, we had this bearish reversal pattern, and it usually, if you find such pattern approaching a support, just know that's going to reverse and give us a buying opportunity. If you get it at resistance, just know that it's going to change direction and start going to the downside. But my point of focus here is that there is a positive correlation that I have just noticed as the market conditions change between Euro AUD and Euro NZD. So if you look carefully on the structure, we have this down trending market at the current moment, and then the market gave us now this reversal pattern, which is it's a continuation pattern, which is a bullish continuation flag or channel, whatever you call it. And then after it broke out, it started forming higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, and higher lows, forming another higher high. If you watch the analysis, this is exactly something that I said was most probably going to happen, but I'm going to do a review from the market breakdown. So if we come back now to Euro NZD, you would notice that we have a similar structure, just that I did not focus too much now on Euro AUD, but you would notice that we have a similar thingy. We have the support level, and dropping it now to the 4-hour time frame, you would also notice that the momentum is currently with the buyers, and Euro AUD is forming higher highs and higher lows. So if we can just okay, right, so look at this carefully. Like similarly on Euro AUD, we had this bearish structure which serves as a reversal, and to add even more, we also had this type of pattern, bullish continuation pattern that I noticed on Euro AUD, which is we had this impulse move and then this falling wedge and the continuations to the upside. And then if you can quickly come back to Euro AUD, you would notice that we had this bearish trend, we had this impulsive move, correction, and continuation to the upside. And then afterwards, it started forming higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. Let's go back now to Euro NZD. You would notice that we also had this bearish structure with this impulse move and then this correction, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high. So this is exactly something that I'm talking about. Because for me, this could have been easy for me to say, if I was trading Euro NZD, let's say maybe I have 4 positions running, it gives me the confidence because I know how do they behave, what is going on, to also go and add, let's say maybe another 4 more positions on Euro AUD because they move similar. They may not move exactly the same at the same time, but it's just you having to understand on which side is the momentum. Is it with the buyers or with the sellers? And then if you look at the structure like I had broke it down to you, you would see that this is, if not the same thing, it's almost similar. So this is what is called correlations. There is positive correlation amongst the pairs, there is a negative correlation amongst the pairs. And another thing that to confirm that before I end the video, you would notice that there is a very, very positive correlation between all the pairs that have the Japanese yen, right? When it comes to all the pairs that have the JPY, the Japanese yen, because we do not have the currency pairs that have the Japanese yen as the base currency, you would notice that when a certain pair buys, if USD JPY is a buy, Euro JPY tends to be a buy, CAD JPY also buys, OD JPY also buys, NZD JPY also buys, CAD JPY also buys, GBP JPY also buys. That is a core. So if you are somebody who's trading the pairs that have got the JPY, if you are buying them, you could also buy them all at the same time, right? So it's just a matter of finding entries and also timing, guys. You know, when it comes to entries, you can know your technicals, you can know everything, but I would like to emphasize that it's also, when it comes to entries are also a timing thing. You must know when it is the right time to enter. You must know when it is the time to wait for that entry to come to you, right? So one last thing before I end the video, there's another thing why I have the crude oil here. It's not that I'm trading the crude oil, but I understand that Canada as a country is one of the currencies that export or make crude oil. So if the oil prices are increasing, or an increase in oil prices, that means a positive for the CAD. So if, for instance, USoil would buy now, it simply means that if I come back to USD CAD, I'm